So many companies think they're secure. They're all wrapped up in this comforting blanket of compliance certificates. I mean, they've passed every audit, and on paper, they look totally impenetrable. But is that feeling of safety actually real, or is it just an illusion? So let's just get right to it and ask that question point blank. Is your security an illusion? Because when you look at the headlines, they tell a story that suggests that warm blanket of compliance, well, it might be dangerously thin. I mean, just think about some of the huge breaches that have absolutely rocked the corporate world. You've got the SolarWinds supply chain disaster, the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack, and here's the kicker. The one thing they all had in common, the organizations involved were all considered compliant. They had the right pieces of paper, sometimes right up until the moment disaster struck. This just shows a massive, dangerous gap between looking secure and actually being resilient. Yeah, and this quote it hits the nail on the head. Compliance artifacts, your certificates, your audit reports, they create a sense of order for sure, but they are absolutely not proof of capability. They tell you what you did yesterday, but they say almost nothing about whether you can survive an attack that's coming tomorrow. Okay, so here's the game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to really dig into that compliance illusion. Then, we'll talk about the evolution from the old GRC model to a new one called GRA. After that, we'll look at the engine that makes it all work, explore why accountability is the absolute key, and finally, we'll talk about what it means to govern with real, actual confidence. All right, so if just being compliant isn't the answer, what is? Well, to figure that out, we've got to look at the root of the problem, the traditional model of governance, risk, and compliance, or what everyone calls GRC. Now, for those of you who might not live and breathe this stuff, GRC has been the gold standard for like 2 decades. It's the framework companies use to manage rules, spot risks, and make sure they're following all the regulations. And hey, to be fair, it did help professionalize governance. But, and this is a huge but, GRC was built for a much simpler, more stable world. And today, its flaws are really showing. For one, it's always looking in the rearview mirror. It creates these silos where security, IT, and risk teams are all in their own little worlds, which creates massive blind spots. And maybe most importantly, it's busy measuring activities, like, hey, did we install the patches? Instead of outcomes, like, can we actually recover if we get hit by a major attack? So all of this leads us to a major turning point. We have to evolve. And that evolution, it has a name: governance, resilience, assurance, and accountability. Or for short, GRAA. Let's break down what GRAA actually means, starting with resilience. See, this isn't just about managing risk anymore. It's about actively building the capability to keep things running when you get challenged. It's a huge shift from a passive defensive crouch to an active, strong posture. Next up is assurance. And this is where we stop looking backward at compliance and start looking forward with evidence-based proof. Assurance doesn't ask, did we follow the rules? No. It asks a much more important question. Will our systems actually work when we need them most? And then we get to accountability. Honestly, this is the secret sauce. It's the critical piece that's always been missing. Assurance gives you the hard evidence, but accountability is the engine that forces action and ownership. It makes sure that all that evidence doesn't just sit in a report on a shelf, it actually leads to real, measurable improvement. This slide just lays it all out so clearly. With the old GRC model, the focus is risk, your proof is compliance, the driver is just following rules, and the goal is, well, it's reassurance. It's about feeling okay. But with GRAA, everything shifts. The focus is resilience, the proof is assurance, the driver is accountability, and the goal is real, genuine confidence. Okay, so this all sounds great, right? But how do you actually do it? How do you make it real? Well, that's where the engine behind GRAA comes in, something called the Digital Value Management System, or DVMS. The best way to think about the DVMS is like the nervous system of your organization. It connects the big picture strategy from the boardroom all the way down to what's happening on the ground. And I absolutely love this analogy. Frameworks are like the map, but the DVMS is the GPS that makes sure you actually take the journey and get to your destination. And what's so cool about the DVMS is that it's not a one-and-done thing. It's built around this constant feedback loop. You start with the leadership's intent, which gets translated into real operational capability. That capability generates hard evidence, which leads to learning, and that learning circles all the way back to create an even better, improved intent. It's a cycle that just keeps driving improvement. The DVMS operates on a really simple but powerful model: create, protect, deliver, or CPD. It basically reframes everything your company does. You create value by designing services that are resilient from the start. You protect that value with active working defenses. And you deliver that value by having proven plans to keep your promises to customers no matter what. But listen, collecting all this evidence, it's useless if you don't do anything with it. And that brings us back to the most critical part of GRAA: accountability. This is what turns all that data into meaningful action. This quote just says it all perfectly. Without accountability, assurance is just another report collecting dust. Accountability is what makes the whole system credible, what keeps it alive. It's the principle that turns evidence into action and ensures someone actually owns the outcome. Okay, let's make this super concrete. Check out this model, the question, outcome, question, metric model. Governance doesn't just state a goal. It asks a testable question, the QO. Something like, can we restore our services within 4 hours of a major disruption? Then, operations has to answer with a verifiable metric, the QM. In our last 3 recovery drills, the average restoration time was 2.5 hours. See the difference? One is a wish, the other is proof. So what does all this get you? Where does this lead? It's about moving beyond that false comfort of a compliance certificate and finally governing with real confidence. Let's put it all together one last time. This slide just lays it out bare. GRC gives you reassurance. It's that warm, fuzzy feeling you get from checking boxes. It looks backward, it's based on artifacts, and it assumes you're secure. GRA, on the other hand, delivers confidence. This is a conviction that's based on hard evidence. It looks forward, it proves your capability, and it verifies your resilience. So when you boil it all down, here's what it comes to. We have to move beyond just documenting compliance and start demonstrating real evidence-based assurance. And that leaves every leader out there with one really critical question. I want you to take an honest look at your organization and ask yourself, are you governing by assumption or are you governing by evidence?